Mr Mayor.
Yes.
Just a point of order. I have 2 points of order, if I may, please.
Yes.
The first one is I received my notification for this meeting, I probably think as other councillors did, at 4:19 on Monday. Now, the local law says other meetings like this have to have 48 hours clear notice, and I'm just wondering, I'm not saying don't proceed, but I mean, are we in breach of the local law if we start at this time and not defer till that 48 hours? I've asked, that's my first question.
I'll go to governance for that, if I may, please.
Through the Chair, it's my view that sufficient notice has been provided for this meeting.
Mr Mayor, the local law says 48 hours, unless there's exceptional circumstances, but I don't know whether that applies. And if it is, does that have to be noted when the item goes out, the notice goes out?
Governance,
Through the Chair, the governance rules actually provide for the CEO to liaise with the Mayor of the day to call for an unscheduled meeting. And whilst there is a 48-hour rule, there are circumstances by which that 48-hour rule can be waived. And I think a determination has been made that the passing of a budget, even in draft form, is an exceptional circumstance.
Through, if I may, Mr Mayor.
yes.
Not wishing to continue the debate, but does it cite that?
Yes. Through governance, please.
The governance rules do cite
No,
that.
sorry, but this particular meeting here today, I just have an issue, are we in breach of if we go ahead without the 48 hours, that's all.
Yes.
Through the Chair, it is an unscheduled meeting. It has been advertised appropriately within sufficient time, and there are provisions for it to be called outside of a 48-hour period.
Councillor, would you like it noted?
Well,
Objection to that?
I would like it noted in the minutes that I was just expressed my concerns about whether this actually complies with the local law, particularly clause 3.5.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And my second,
Yeah, the second question,
second question, if I may, or just concerns is this this meeting today, and it is supposed to be reconsideration of a rescission motion. Now, rescissions usually are to rescind an action of council, but last week there was no action of council. There was no decision. So my question is, why is it a rescission motion?
Once again, I'll go to governance on that, please.
Through the Chair, now that we're quoting the governance rules, 3.18.1 says that a notice of motion to rescind or alter a previous resolution of council. So there is, if you check the minutes of last week's special meeting, there actually is a record of a council decision being made. A council decision is not always in the positive. In this case, a decision was made not to adopt the draft budget for community consultation. So this rescission notice is aimed at overturning that decision. It is, however, a decision. It's recorded.
Councillor Sullivan.
I still think, look, I'm not wishing to stop the meeting proceeding, but I think as a matter of process, this is not, in my view, a rescission motion, in the sense that we normally have a rescission, which is to sort of overturn a decision of council. But I'll defer to your judgment, Mr Mayor, but I would like it noted. Thank you.
Yes, look, I will note it, and there were some questions asked about on Friday when the discussion about bringing the special meeting forward was discussed. And yes, I had some concerns. I read two precedents. One was in favour of what governance is saying now, another wasn't. So it was a line ball decision at the end of the day. But I think the thing that needs to be noted today is that you've noted both concerns, and they should be reflected in the minutes. But at this point in time, we've called a meeting to the public for 48 hours, albeit that we have an issue with that, and we've referred it to governance, and governance has approved it. So on that basis, we will go forward with the meeting. I have got a question before we get into the rescission again, just so we're all clear. On the basis that we're coming back for one item, and that item is reflected in an item that has already been approved at the last special meeting. My concerns are that if an alternate was arranged today that was contrary to what was approved last week in terms of, I haven't got the item in front of me, but the item was in reflection of the 10-year plan, that we may need to consider what we do with a rescission motion in terms of the 10-year plan to put it back in order. And I'm sure, Councillor Sullivan, you probably have a view on that.
Yes, thank you.
Right, let's get down to business. So the first item is I might get the Deputy Mayor to open up with a prayer, please. Sorry, I'll put you on the spot.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor. Almighty God, be with us as we work for the people of the Shire of Moorabool. Grant us wisdom that we may care for the Shire as true stewards of your creation. May be aware of the great responsibilities placed upon us. Help us to be just in all our dealings, and may our work prosper for the good of all. Amen.
Thank you. And now I might go to Councillor Taylor, if you'd like to do the acknowledgement of country, please.
I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, let's move back into the agenda. So, councillors, we've got no apologies at this point. Obviously, there's no disclosures of conflicts of interest in the budget submission to go out to the public. So we'll move on to 7.1, which is a notice of rescission, which is consideration of the proposed 25 to 26 annual budget. There is a motion in place here. Councillors, I'm in your hands. Anyone? You're moving it, Councillor Bingham, or just testing the light?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, to get the show on the road, I'm happy to move the recommendation. I was just a bit hesitant because I thought there was going to be an alternative. But anyways, I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Ward. Right. Do we have any?
I'll second.
Do we have any dissent?
Just so basically this, sorry, through you, Mr Mayor. So usually with a rescission motion, you unpick it and then you say then we propose, in the event the rescission motion is successful, then I will propose to move it. So basically Councillor Bingham is then saying I move that it be rescinded, and then he's subsequently moving point 2. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Well, I will object then. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we'll go to you, Councillor Bingham. I probably should have made that clear at the beginning, but yes, Councillor Bingham, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, like I said, I'm simply moving this rescission notice to get the ball rolling. So not here, sitting here looking at each other. Thanks.
Right, now I'll go to Councillor Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Let's be quite clear. This resolution basically increases a 3% rate increase. There is no ambiguity about this. I know that there will be those who are saying, well, it's a draft to go out for consultation, etc., but that's really what it is. 3% basically equates to 1.2 million. It's quite interesting that this figure nearly equates to the same projected increase in employee cost in 25-26 of 1.221 million. So there's a nice mathematical correlation between those two, Mr Mayor. I know it is said that this is a proposed rate increase in line with rate capping, that there will be opportunity for people to put in a submission. Well, we all know better. We all know better. We know that 3% is what the rate increase will be, and any submissions that come in from the public or otherwise will not change that 3%. It may be argued that the long-term impact of not applying a 3% rate increase this year will have future implication, must be considered in ongoing budgets. If there is a future financial crisis in Moorabool, I would suggest it's because you've been over-trading. Our debt is approaching nearly 60% of our rate income, which is not a good position to be in. Following last week's meeting, the CEO went away and came back with a response which largely focused on cuts to service to achieve a $1.2 million saving. But it didn't take into consideration the list of matters that I raised last week, including a 9.5 carryover from capital works budget, which would suggest there could be less money required this year because that money will be coming forward. And also the reserve fund, which I also suggested should be looked at, could be used as a means to cover the $1.2 million shortfall. I would argue that we could find the $1.2 million without cutting services.
Just for clarification, and I'm sorry to break your train of thought.
No, that's fine, Mr Mayor.
Just for clarification, because we're on a rescission motion, we're almost debating into the next item.
But that's what this is.
Yeah, and I understand that. So
Sorry, Mr Mayor,
Yes.
that's why I asked the question. So the rescission motion, and this is the one that Councillor Bingham is now moving to go forward, which relates to the matter of what, on the topic I'm just been speaking of. Is that all right?
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
defer
I
to
just
your
want a
position.
clarification.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yes, that's all right.
Here we are. Also to note, the 3% is based on last year's budget figures and does not take into account any supplementary rates that would have occurred in the meantime from that when that budget was struck. I'll also note, Mr Mayor, that our communities are encountered a perfect storm of adverse financial impacts. Cost of living crisis. I note that real wages have declined. Income tax rates that were set nearly 15 years ago have and are not indexed. Bracket creep has severely reduced people's disposable income. We are all less well off. 2, the emergency services levy that was passed last week will see the charge on everyone's rate notice double from just about every ratepayer and nearly treble for farmers across our municipality. 3, drought conditions are beginning to severely impact on farmers across Moorabool Shire. Mr Mayor, our communities are hurting and hurting badly. Council needs to have some empathy for what is happening outside the walls of this chamber. We cannot ignore the reality of what is happening to our communities. I fear that many ratepayers in Moorabool Shire will not be able to pay their rates, adding to the existing pool of non-paid rates. It is interesting, as I said last week, that Council's Strategic Plan Objective 3 states a council that listens and adapts to the needs of our evolving communities. This statement appears regularly in council reports and is cited regularly. I believe that we should walk the talk. The communities of Moorabool have to tighten their belt, and so should council. I know it will also said that without a 3% rates increase, the proposed swimming pool in Bacchus Marsh will be put in jeopardy, and arguments about compounding interest will be used. I doubt very much the pool in Bacchus Marsh will be built in the term of this council, and it also suggests other loans will mature before council is required to find additional loan borrowings for this pool. With regard to the proposed pool, the only design that I have ever seen is one of several years ago. I don't know if the design that was proposed is the same design that's been pro-offered now. We don't even know what it might cost. We don't even know where it will be located, and there's a lot of unknowns with respect to the pool. And Mr Mayor, to quote Donald Rumsfeld, former Secretary of Defence for the United States, there are known unknowns, unknown knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. At this stage, I'm not sure where the pool sits. The proposed 3% is taken from last, as I say, it doesn't take in the supplement. What I'm suggesting is that we, at this point in time, we draw a breath and we take a pause and we look at a zero, not increasing the rates because of the way our community is hurting. It's not to say that we remain at zero forever. I'm not suggesting that. All I'm suggesting that any rate increase at this time would send a message to the communities of Moorabool that council does not care. Does not care. And councillors, I'll ask you to consider what's being put forward here and think about the people out there who are hurting and will be continue to hurt. And this added burden onto their rates is something I don't think people can actually bear. And this, councillors, I would put it, may be the straw that breaks the camel's back. So I think in light of that, councillors, I'm asking you to consider your heart, not your head. I know the head would say, we've got our 3%, yada, yada, yada. But consider the people who are hurting and who are paying this. That's all I'm asking. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Simons. At this point, like we did last time, I'll just make sure that are any councillors foreshadowing a motion should the rescission not get up. I know that's a very unusual thing, but I'm just making sure that we cover it off. No?
I would foreshadow if that were to occur.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Sullivan spoke at length about the rate increase, and I was frustrated last week that the vote became about a rate increase, and it should not. We are voting to comply with the Local Government Act, and the Local Government Act requires us to put a budget out with public consultation and to have a budget adopted by the 30th of June. If we don't do that, we're in breach of the Local Government Act. And as councillors, we're failing in our responsibilities to the residents of Moorabool. So we're not making a decision about the rates today. We're making a decision to put a budget out for comment, a budget that we worked on for 4 months, and we've all had the chance and opportunity to debate. 7 briefings we've had on the budget. So it is quite frustrating that this has come up now, but we are here and I'm pleased to debate some of the points that were raised. I note that over the last 5 years, the accrued official inflation rate has been 23%, over 23%, and rate increases as determined by the Essential Services Commission has been 9.5%. Inflation has exceeded rate increases by nearly 14%. Now, to give you a perspective, if you look at today's budget that we are discussing, 14% of today's budget is $9.5 million. That is $9.5 million. Costs have gone up over the last 5 years against our rate income. That's $9.5 million that we've had to absorb. Now, Councillor Sullivan made the point that we may need to tighten our belts and run lean. Our expenses per head of population in Moorabool are $1,840 per resident, which is the lowest of similar sized regional and peri-urban councils. It is the lowest. We are running lean. In 2014-15, we had a staff member for every 103 residents. 10 years later, we now have a staff member for 115 residents. We're running leaner. There is no fat. Having a 3% rate increase, and this debate shouldn't be about the rate increase, but it's been led that way. Having a 3% rate increase is a responsible decision that means that we won't go down the path of neighbouring shires where they've had to get special exemptions to get a 10% rate increase. And that will cause a lot of pain and angst. 63% of our residential residents will get a rate increase of less than 5%. 87% of our farmers, and we have 450 farmers, 87% of our farmers will either get a rate decrease or an increase of less than 5%. So the budget proposes a 3% rate increase, which has been determined by the Essential Services Commission, and let me emphasise their name. They are the Essential Services Commission. They look at what is essential for councils to be financially viable and sustainable. And they have determined it is essential for local government to have a 3% rate increase. Again, but we're not here to debate the rates. We're here to debate the budget. My last point in wrapping up were please don't get sideswiped by what this is really about today. Our debt is not approaching 60%, which is our cap limit. Our debt is sitting under 40% at the moment. And if there's going to be a cut in the budget, it's going to be less services. And those less services, 80% of our population lives in residential areas. Those 80% of those residents are really going to feel the pinch. Where there was discussion about the wage increases. Well, the EBA says there'll be a wage increase of 3.5%. That's not up for the council to debate. Our wages are going up 3.5% next year. And we're hiring 2 additional staff to man the library. So, of course, there's going to be wage increases. Wage increases of 3.5% against a rate increase of 0% or 3%. It's going to put incredible financial pressure. And then we're going to have to look at where do we cut expenditure? Do we cut it on roads to reduce our unsealed road budget? I don't know. These are all things we'd have to debate if we didn't increase our rates. Anyway, I'm happy to second Councillor Bingham's motion, and I would like the budget to go out for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against? Councillor Berry.
For, thanks, Mr Mayor. Mine will be short. I think I'm exhausted by the process, by the way. It's a good budget. Council finance staff have worked tirelessly to come up with this budget. The budget aligns with our council plan, which is already out there, and aligns with Mirraboo's 2041 long-term plan, which is out for consultation. They all intertwine. That's what budgets do, council plans. The rigorous review by officers, management and councillors has every dollar accounted for and needs the 3% increase. This budget is below CPI. This budget shows responsible planning while maintaining essential services and infrastructure for the whole Shire. That is what council is supposed to do, provide services to our community and build infrastructure that is required and wanted in line with our growth. And we all know our growth is exponential, 4th highest growing shire in Australia. We are not in a position to decrease service levels, particularly when we are one of the fastest growing shires in Australia. We are always asking for more because of the expectations of our constituents, new or old. Supplementary rates are not guaranteed. We haven't got to the point where the community are involved in consultation so that we can listen to our community from their submissions. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against? Councillor Keogh. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Turn your button on, Councillor Keogh. We want to see the light.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I also applaud everybody to vote for Councillor Bingham's resolution, but just to speak about the rates, I totally agree with Councillor Sullivan. We have a carryover of $9.4 million. That is very easy to, it will be carried over, but that we've got $9.4 million to play with to take out of our budget, and it won't hurt anything. There's no mention of supplementaries. There is going to be supplementary. There's works going on. Cost of living crisis that we have. And as Councillor Sullivan says, we are not saying we're never going to have a rate increase. It is a rate increase for 1 year. So I applaud every councillor to, when we do come to deciding on what the rate increase is to go along with what Councillor Sullivan has been espousing for some time, and me as well.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, I have listened to everyone here. Yes, we're here to put it out for the residents to have their input into it. And I feel we must listen to the residents, let them have their say. If they say 3% is too much, let's hear it. Now, I think I'm the only one at this table that is a pensioner. It will hurt me. It will hurt my family. But I also know that we need to keep up the services. I'm at that age where, I hate to say it, we've brought in the pool. I'm going to bring in the pool. We do need the pool. We need it for babies up into my age, and I need it to keep my health so I can keep helping the community. I have worked in the community. I know how they're hurting. I was at the neighbour's place, AGM. I know how many people are hurting. I've worked on a no-interest loan scheme. I've worked in emergency relief. I know people are hurting, but we also cannot reduce services, and we have to be responsible for that. We do need the pool. I'm not saying what I'm going to vote for, but we must get this out for the residents to have their say, and that's what we're here to do, not debate what the 3% or whatever it's going to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Freeman. I will remind all councillors again that we are here for a rescission, but anyhow, we open the door, so we'll let everyone out. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Councillor Minari, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Putting a budget out for consultation is a critical moment for the Shire, a time when every decision we make, every dollar we allocate and every concern we bring forward will shape the future of our community. The responsibility we carry as a council goes far beyond balancing numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about safeguarding our people, supporting our towns and upholding the values that define Moorabool. Over the past weeks, concern has grown across Moorabool and the state. New taxes have sparked outrage, not just because they exist, but because of what they represent. These taxes are a calculated move, using emotional issues to divert attention from a larger statewide cash grab. What's worse, councils will be left to manage the fallout. We'll be expected to collect a tax on behalf of the state, adding more pressure to already strained council resources. I support the MAV's pushback on this, but more could be done. It's unfair to burden councils with extra responsibility when we are already facing our own challenges. Now, another hidden tax is emerging, and I only found this one out today. Residents who run small businesses from home and contribute to the economy are facing land tax for the first time on their own home. An unjust burden that adds unnecessary pressure on those already struggling with the rising cost of living. This is a burden with little explanation or justification. Even more concerning is that much of the state remains unaware of what's unfolding and unprepared for what's to come. We can't ignore that council is feeling the financial pressure. And this is why we must make clever, future-focused decisions. We must examine our spending with a critical eye and question every increase in debt. Because if we don't, we risk following the same dangerous path as other councils, leaving a legacy that maybe in 8 years from now, our community will struggle to recover from. But this conversation is not just about numbers, it's about fairness. The recent removal of ward structures has had real consequences for our resources, and the attention is distributed across the Shire. Not an argument about dollar figures, it's a matter of fairness. It is about whether our small towns, our outer communities, are being seen, heard and valued. As I have always said, small additions can be big wins for small regions. But this budget, it doesn't reflect that. It misses the mark for too many. Too many of our smaller communities are being left behind, not because they don't matter, but because their voices are being drowned out. I owe it to our community to demand better, and we owe it to the generations that follow to leave behind something stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minari. Councillor, can you turn your light off, please? That's you. Right. Anyone else for or against? We only have one more player. Councillor Taylor, no? Okay, Councillor Bingham, back to you. Let's close this off.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to be very clear to all my fellow councillors that my decision to rescind this motion is not a commitment of whether or not I'm voting for 0% or 3% in a month's time. I just want to make that very clear, because I sit here a bit conflicted. Yesterday with my fellow councillors, Councillor Venditti Taylor and Councillor Minari, I attended the rally in the city, not as councillor but as a firefighter. And there was about 5,000 people that were there, and if the government didn't shut off the regional services, there would have been a hell of a lot more people there. And there was this one, and the news doesn't show everything, but there was this one firefighter who stood up on stage, Rob Armstrong, and he shared his story, and everybody that was there was holding in the tears, because he was talking about how his life was saved by a volunteer firefighter. I get it. People are hurting. I've met with Ballyang Fire Station, who are now officially offline, and across the state, as of last week, there was well over 300 that are offline, and that number will grow. And people are hurting. I get it. But last week, a bit of a bomb went off in council, where everyone's, the budget. We didn't go out to community consultation, and we're all sitting around, twiddling our thumbs, going, "Oh, how do we resolve this?" So I've come in with a bit of a fire extinguisher, move this rescission notice so we can just go to community consultation. This is not, as the other councillors were just mentioning, this is not about 0 to 3%. We'll have that debate later. But I want to go out to community consultation, and again, as my fellow councillors were saying, I want to hear what the community is saying. If it comes back, and we very well may need to, in the budget, talk about a potential rebate, we'll have that discussion. But for now, I just want to go out to community consultation. That is it, nothing more. So I recommend the motion. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bingham, well, there was a rescission motion that went everywhere in 500 different places. It probably shouldn't have, but anyhow, it was a rescission motion. You are entitled to have your say. So we'll take it to a vote. Those in favour of rescission? 6. So the motion's passed on the rescission. Those against? Call division. Those for, please stand. Someone's got the names, have they? I feel like we're taking names. Right. Those against? Yeah, that's unusual for the Mayor to stand, but I will on this one. So, okay. Righto, let's moving right along. So now we go to, where do we go? That's all I've got. I've only got one item. Sorry.
It's only that or any other urgent business. That's the only two things listed.
So just to be clear, I don't want everyone to... So we had something lay on the table. We put a rescission motion in. Are you saying that passes now? Is that what you're saying? Doesn't have to be put up?
Sorry, Chair, what was laid on the table? I just heard a rescission motion being passed.
We had a rescission motion of an item that was laid on the table at the last meeting. So that's now we're back where we were in the beginning. Normally after a rescission motion we would have a motion. Is that a moment? We don't have anything in front of me.
I think what Councillor Bingham, and I don't want to speak for Councillor Bingham, but what he has foreshadowed is that the rescission would also then follow the adoption of the draft. It's presented that way.
He's done item 1, so that's why Tom was objecting to it, was because of this part of it. It wasn't necessarily written as this part, but it's all moved at once.
Yeah, that was Councillor Sullivan's...
That was my question. This is not the normal, through Mr Mayor, this is not the normal way we do a rescission. The rescission is the decision gets rescinded,
yes,
and then if the notice that decision was rescinded, councillor would move whatever it was. That's the way it should have. This is sort of conflated everything together, and I don't think it's the proper way to do it.
I have some concerns myself, I have to say, Councillor Sullivan. I was under the impression, despite that you'd brought up item 2, that once you have a rescission, there would actually be a motion produced. I'm very, very disappointed that's all been included in the one, and I'll be making a formal protest about it later. So, councillors, any other business? And I believe that should have been told to the Mayor at some point when we had the discussion last Friday. As you can see, I am not happy about it. Go, urgent business. Councillor Sullivan.
No other business, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Kerr. Councillor Taylor.
Business,
Councillor
Mr. Mayor.
Murray,
No urgent business,
Councillor
Mr.
Bingham,
Mayor.
Negative on that.
Councillor Berry.
No urgent
Councillor
business, thank you,
Freeman,
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Ward.
No urgent business. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. This meeting's closed. That's disgraceful.